Good afternoon, everybody. What's happening, everybody? Friday, February 20th, 2026. My name is Kevin Smith. Thank you so much for tuning in to Loud Majority Live. We got a jam-packed show for you guys today. Big news. The Supreme Court has knocked down President Trump's tariffs. Sort of. They've sort of knocked them down in a 6-3 decision. We're going to go over the ruling, exactly what it said, and what it means from there. President Trump obviously has been having a press conference over the course of the last several hours, discussing what his plan is from here. Naturally, we knew he would have a plan. What all this will mean for markets, what this will mean moving forward. Really annoying, I got to tell you. Really annoying. I don't know what the hell the point of having a majority on the Supreme Court is if some of them are just going to make shit up as they go along, which apparently they seem to be doing. President Trump is not happy. Scott Bessent is not happy. We'll go over all of that. Other people who are not happy is everyone in New York City except for Zohran Mamdani. Now, this is one of those moments where I'm going to hate to say that I told you so, even though, I did. I did. I'll be honest with you. A lot of the times when I say that I don't like to say I told you so, that's actually a lie. I do like to say it because I'm right so often. Whatever. Also, Democrats are planning an organized walkout of the Supreme Court, of the State of the Union address, which is going to be odd. Which is going to be a little bit odd, if I'm being honest with you. Nothing says organized like announcing your walkout just before. Not a boycott. They're going to walk out of the middle of the speech just to be annoying hags. Speaking of annoying hags, The View have suddenly changed their tune on Epstein. Shocker. Turns out they got exactly what they wanted, and now they don't like it anymore because they're giant pains in the asses. But before we get started, guys, do me a favor and hit that thumbs up button. Share the video out all over the place. We're going to pop the live chat up onto the screen. Also, for the local audience, once again, real quick, next Tuesday, we are going to be having a midterms kickoff event at Napper Tandy's in Smithtown. We're going to be joined by the Turning Point USA chapters at Suffolk County Community College and Stony Brook University, along with some people running for elected office this year in the midterms locally. Make sure you guys come on down. We're going to watch the State of the Union address. We're going to have some food. We're going to have some drinks. It's going to be one hell of a time. That's 8 p.m. on Tuesday for the State of the Union, Napper Tandy's in Smithtown. Come on down, support the kids over at Turning Point USA, and get ready for a raucous midterm, because that's exactly what it's gonna be. Giddy up, let's go. Guys, do me a favor and hit the thumbs up button, hit the like button, hit the share button, wherever it is you may be watching from. Particularly if you're watching on Facebook, big news. Just hit 75,000 followers on the Loud Majority Facebook. Really excited about that because I don't like unrounded numbers. I like milestones, and I'm very happy to know that we hit that. So if you're not following us on Loud Majority US, quite frankly, what the hell are you doing? That's where we post all of the spiciest memes, all of the fun political content, good times all around. Giddy up. Let's go. Giddy up. Let's dive right in. So, obviously, the big news of the day was the Supreme Court struck down President Trump's tariffs 6-3. President Trump did have some choice words. He had some choice words, which one would assume he would have. We'll break down the decision first before we get into what he said. The Supreme Court ruled, this from the Post-Millennial, that the International Emergency Economic Powers Act does not authorize the President of the United States to impose tariffs. The court ruled in the matter, the IEEPA. What a stupid acronym. Does not authorize the President of the United States to impose tariffs to ruling states. The judgment in number 24-1287 is vacated. The case is remanded with instructions to dismiss for lack of jurisdiction. The judgment number is 25 250 is affirmed. Chief Justice John Roberts wrote for the court. The government reads Apaya, whatever, to give the president power to unilaterally impose unbounded tariffs and change them at will. That view would represent a transformational expansion of presidential authority over tariff policy. It is also telling that EPA's half-century of existence, no president has invoked the statute to impose any tariffs, let alone tariffs of this magnitude and this scope. The lack of historical precedent, coupled with the breadth of authority that the president now claims, suggests a tariff extended beyond the president's legitimate reach. He wrote that Trump relied on the words regulate and importation to assert that he has, quote, the independent power to impose tariffs on imports from any country of any product at any rate for any time. Those words cannot bear such weight. Roberts wrote, quote, that, quote, the framers gave the power to issue tariffs during peacetime to Congress alone, notwithstanding the obvious foreign policy implications of the tariffs and whatever may be said of other powers that implicate foreign affairs. We would not expect Congress to relinquish its tariff power through vague language and without certain limitations. So, look, here's the problem I have with the decision. Okay. The statute speaks of peacetime tariffs. Peacetime tariffs. Now, do I like the fact that America seems to be constantly at war? No, I don't. I wish we weren't. In war news, American troops are being pulled out of Syria. That's exciting. That only took 25 years. But are we at peace right now? I don't know. There was a time in this country when we knew we were at peace and we knew when we were at war. Now it seems to just be a continuous, blob of military excursions. However, with that being said, are we currently at war? Not really. Are we currently at peace? Not really. I mean, particularly this week with the armed buildup in the Persian Gulf outside of Iran, what could possibly go wrong there? Aside from Lindsey Graham and Brian Kilmeade getting an erection, because they've been clamoring for a war with Iran for about 30 years now. That's where it comes down to. Presidents are allowed to impose tariffs in a national security, under the guise of national security while we are at war. Obviously, the president would have plenipotentiary power over foreign policy and foreign importation of goods during a wartime. But the question remains, are we at war? Not really. Or kind of, sort of. I don't know. Of course, that is the broader question, that it doesn't matter whether it's Trump or Biden or Trump or Obama but I don't know. Have we been at war since Reagan? I don't really know. We just sort of make that up as we go along now. In his dissent, Justice Brett Kavanaugh wrote that the court's decision, quote, is likely to generate other serious practical consequences in the near term. One issue will be the refunds. Refunds of billions of dollars would have significant consequences for the United States Treasury. The court says nothing today about whether and if how the government should go about returning the billions of dollars that it has collected from importers. But that process is likely to be a mess, as well acknowledged in the oral argument. Kavanaugh also wrote that quotas and embargoes, tariffs are a traditional and common tool to regulate importation. He wrote that Richard Nixon levied tariffs under EPA, the Trading with Enemies Act, which similarly authorized the president to regulate importation. The Nixon tariffs were upheld in the court. He added, moreover, in 1967, a year before the act was enacted, the court unanimously ruled that a similar worded statute authorizing the president to adjust imports permitted President Ford to impose monetary tariffs on foreign oil imports. So the court was divided. Naturally, Alito and Thomas got him. Kavanaugh got him. Coney Barrett hasn't been great. Hasn't been great. I think that would be the understatement of the century. And President Trump had no issue mincing words because, let's be honest, he has never held back his feelings in any regard for any reason ever in the history of his life. He was President Trump at the press conference coming in hot.
Wow, got a lot of people. That's a new record. We set a record every time. Well, thank you very much for being here. The Supreme Court's ruling on tariffs is deeply disappointing, and I'm ashamed of certain members of the court, absolutely ashamed, for not having the courage to do what's right for our country. I'd like to thank and congratulate Justices Thomas, Alito, and Kavanaugh for their strength and wisdom and love of our country, which is right now very proud of those justices. When you read the dissenting opinions, there's no way that anyone can argue against them. There's no way. Foreign countries that have been ripping us off for years are ecstatic. They're so happy. And they're dancing in the streets, but they won't be dancing for long, that I can assure you. The Democrats on the court are thrilled, but they will automatically vote no. They're an automatic no, just like in Congress. They're an automatic no. They're against anything that makes America strong, healthy, and great again. They also are a, frankly, disgrace to our nation, those justices. They're an automatic no, no matter how good a case you have. It's a no. But you can't knock their loyalty.
Yeah, you can't knock their loyalty. Democrats tend to stand with each other, especially Ketanji Brown Jackson, who actually doesn't know what she's doing. Sotomayor and Kagan are at least competent jurists, but Ketanji Brown Jackson, slightly the word I'm not allowed to say anymore. Chat, have at it. It's disappointing. It's disappointing, but President Trump came out and said, all right, cool. You don't want to do it that way? We'll do it a different way.
Therefore, effective immediately, all national security tariffs under Section 232 and existing Section 301 tariffs, they're existing, they're there, remain in place, fully in place, and in full force and effect. Today, I will sign an order to impose a 10% global tariff under Section 122 over and above our normal tariffs already being charged. And we're also initiating several Section 301 and other investigations to protect our country from unfair trading practices of other countries and companies. Thank you for your attention.
Now, when it comes to tariffs, the whole thing that always bugs me about it is when idiots will claim that they don't work. And I'm like, if they don't work, then why do other countries impose tariffs on our goods? If you guys have been watching this show for quite some time, you know that AC Night, keep me updated. Keep me updated. Team USA up 1-0 early in the first. Keep me updated on that. If tariffs don't work, then why do so many other countries have it on our imports? If you've been watching the show for a while, you know that I often use the auto industry as the key benchmark of it. There are no Fords in Tokyo. There are no Chevys in Germany. But why? Because it turns out those countries look out for their industries first. They look out for their workers first. Somewhere along the line, somewhere in the 1960s, 1970s, it became in vogue in America to tell people that the way to win in life is to have the most brightly colored plastic crap made in China. The average American household has more than 250,000 items in it, most of whom are made by Taiwanese slave labor. Now, I get it. People like going to the dollar store. I absolutely get it. If you look at the stock of Dollar General, it's usually doing pretty well. Of course, none of that stuff is made by American workers. And when stuff gets made by American workers who can afford to make the products in which they're making, it gives people a sort of sense of pride. If you've ever met someone in any of the trades, a construction worker, a steam fitter, an iron worker, they love to point out the things that they've built. Well, I guarantee you everybody that works at the Ford plant making Ford F-150s is very proud of the fact every time they're driving down the damn street that they're the ones who put that sort of thing together, as opposed to some Japanese economy shitbox that, sure, it's going to last you 150,000 miles, but all it's doing is helping out the economies of other countries. President Trump's tariffs are not punishment for the American people. They're protectionism for the American worker. And finally, we've had someone who cares more about this country than other countries. The problem is that you can't fix an economy that has been destroyed over the course of the last 50 years in a news cycle. It takes a little bit of time. So now President Trump has decided, you know what? Fine. We won't put individual tariffs on individual countries that seem to befit a global strategy. No, we'll just put 10% across the board. A global protectionist policy. I got no issue with it whatsoever. None at all. And thank God he's doing it. Someone finally looking out for American industries in America being used by American workers. We're seeing wages rise all over the country. We're seeing more people go back to work. As a matter of fact, in the economic numbers, we're going to get to the GDP numbers because they came in a little bit less than expected, which should have been. I don't know why it wasn't expected. Democrats shut the government down twice over the last couple of months. But by the way, government still partially shut down. Have you noticed? I know I certainly haven't. One number in the economic stats that nobody talked about was the amount of people working 2 and 3 jobs went down. The amount of part-time jobs went down. What does that mean? That means more people are working full-time. That means more people are giving up their side hustles because they're getting a wage increase because jobs are looking for workers and wages are going up so that they can incentivize people to come and work at their companies. Finally, we have an administration that cares more about the American way of life than the global elite. And Scott Bessent was talking just about that. It's funny. I joke around all the time that Scott Bessent might be the most mild-mannered human being on planet Earth. This is about as mad as I think he's going to get.
And he has made clear that we cannot compromise on economic sovereignty, accept structural vulnerabilities, or allow strategic industries to erode as a result of outdated or misguided assumption. At President Trump's direction, our administration has therefore made economic security the centerpiece of our economic policy. Today, I will share our strategy for putting America first by reprioritizing economic security, which rests on 3 pillars. First, industrial and technological dominance. Second, investment in America. Third, preparedness. From the earliest days of the Republic, our founding fathers understood that independence required economic security. The ability to produce essential goods, sustain public credit, and foster domestic industry was seen as the foundation of sovereignty by Alexander Hamilton. And it still is.
Sovereignty, that's the key. Particularly, you would think people would understand this after the COVID era, when we all got sick because of a Chinese virus, China, and then had to depend on that very same country for those masks that didn't work and for the pharmaceuticals that would make people better from the virus that they gave us. Maybe it might be better to prioritize American companies and reshore some of these manufacturing hubs, even if many of them are being controlled by robots. Even if many of these factories are being run by AI, at least we have control over them. We don't have to worry about a port in Japan closing because a factory is making our pharmaceuticals in Missouri or in New Mexico or somewhere else in America. Economic security is the backbone, is the boring part of the America First movement. It's bringing those jobs back. It's doing the stuff that has to happen. But the Supreme Court ruled against it. But they didn't rule against tariffs in its totality. As President Trump said, under Section 122 of the, what act was that? In 1976, President Trump said he would impose a 10% tariff on for 150 days to replace some of the emergency duties that were struck down by the court. Trump said that his order would be made under Section 230 of the Trade Act of 1974, and the duties would be over and above the tariffs that are currently in place. The new 10% tariff would go into effect in about 3 days. The statute allows the president to impose duty of up to 15% for 150 days on any and all countries related to large and serious balance of payment issues. It does not require investigations or impose other procedural limits. The Supreme Court earlier later declared illegal his who wrote this for Reuters? What are we doing here? The Supreme Court earlier declared illegal his broad global tariffs imposed under the International Emergency Economic Powers. We read that before. Trump said, we have alternatives. We have great alternatives. Could be more money. We'll take in more money. And we'll be a lot stronger for it. So he has statutory ability to put it in for 150 days. Maybe he just puts the tariffs in for 150 days, waits like a week, does it again. Make them do it again. Make them bring this back to the court. That's what Democrats do, as Joe Biden very, very famously said when it came to his nonsense student loan forgiveness program. Joe Biden very famously said that the courts may have struck it down, but they didn't stop me. As he rambled on about paying for people's useless education that we as a culture forced them to get for no reason whatsoever. You got to make sure when you're speaking like Joe Biden, you say it all in one word. Here we go.
The Supreme Court blocked me from relieving student debt, but they didn't stop me. So far, I relieved student debt from nearly 5 million Americans.
Ah! No, you didn't, Joe.
Black borrowers.
Ah! Black borrowers. I kind of miss him. I miss when an entire sentence was all one word. And it was just sort of, black bars. I really shouldn't have. Of course, he couldn't talk, he couldn't really enunciate or the teeth would have popped out. But I do kind of miss the old man. I do kind of miss him. I wish we got a little bit more of him. Because Kamala Harris, AOC, and Zohran Mamdani are just, I don't know. Are they getting old yet? I don't really think so. Those weren't the only economic numbers to come out. The GDP numbers came out for the fourth quarter of 2025, and it dropped a little bit. It dropped a little bit as Trump pulls back spending amid the government shutdown. The economy slowed to 1.4% GDP growth rate over the fourth quarter of 2025 after seeing robust growth in Q2 and Q3 of this year. As there was a pullback in federal spending, a slowdown in the final quarter of the year was primarily due to the large drop in government spending in the economy, which contributes to the GDP growth. Quote, the contributors to increased real GDP for the fourth quarter were increases in consumer spending and investment. These movements were particularly offset by decreases in government spending and exports. Imports, which are a subtraction of the calculation of GDP, decreased. A press release from the Bureau of Economic Analysis said the Dow Jones had expected to gain 2.5% overall. And look, the Dow is, what are we at now? We were doing good all day. It's up about 0.5%, a little under 0.5%. The NASDAQ being just under 1%. I mean, that's good. I'll take it. I'm having a good day. Very good stuff. It was supposed to be up a little bit higher. Perhaps the reason why we have such little government spending is because Democrats decided to shut the government down for the longest time ever. Now, the biggest problem with GDP is that the government is the biggest contributor to GDP growth. And as we are getting pullbacks in spending from the federal government, particularly in the size of government, you're going to see fluctuations. Many people, many market analysts think that the reason why the markets haven't really responded as much to Trump's 10% tariffs are because the markets right now don't really care what Trump does. They're just looking for stability. All right, if it's going to be 10%, then leave it at 10% and let them make their decisions as they go forth. But the wishy-washiness of the federal government in what they are and are not allowed to do. See, it's not the vision that leads to the wishy-washiness. It's about how the people are going to respond. It's about whether or not the House is going to fortify and pass President Trump's policies, whether or not the Supreme Court is going to strike down those tariffs. That really affects what markets are going to do. And with the market still remaining up with the 10% tariff going into place, makes me feel extremely confident about where we go moving forward. One thing that also makes me feel confident is it turns out Zoran Mamdani is even more batshit crazy than I thought he was. So crazy that he has lost the confidence of the New York City Council. That's right. That's right. The council that runs the most liberal city in America, even they were like, bitch, relax. Bro, we're not doing that. We'll get to that in 1 second. Before we do, here's Jeremy.
Hey, everybody, if you're not familiar with, then let me introduce to you Armor Colostrum. Now, I didn't know what colostrum was up until a few years ago. I'd never even really heard of it. And then my wife turned me on to Armor Colostrum. And what colostrum does is it helps regrow your hair. Not going to lie, that's the reason that I started looking into it. But then I started noticing some other things that I could benefit from. I used to get acid reflux very badly. I used to bloat very badly. It felt like I was 10 or 15 pounds heavier than I was until I made Armor Colostrum a part of my everyday schedule. And now things have changed so very much. Let me introduce to you what Armor Colostrum actually does and what it looks like. In a study measuring immune cell response to toxin, Armor Colostrum performed 32% stronger and faster than other colostrum companies. 400 plus bionutrients activated in your life, in your body, to help regrow hair, strengthen your gut health, regrow your nails, toenails, and fingernails healthy, get rid of fungus, stop bloating, and more. And now you can get yours right now for up to $18 off each and every purchase at tryarmra.com. Promo code LFATV. Click the apply button once you've entered the code and watch your discount fall off. That is tryarmra.com/LFATV. Order now.
Guys, head on over to tryarmra.com and use promo code LFATV. That's tryarmra.com. Promo code LFATV. Sorry, just following up on some news. So, Zoran Mamdani is not having a good time of it. Not having a good time of it. As even the New York City Council has told him that, bro, we're not doing anything in which you're proposing. That's just not going to happen. Here was Morgan McKay from Channel 5. Fox 5's pretty good for my local audience. If you're gonna watch any of the mainstream media, Channel 5 is probably the best one.
Hey, Bianca, Natasha. So City Council Speaker Julie Menon telling us today that raising property taxes is not even an option that the council will consider right now. The speaker was here in Queens at a separate event and said that she's been bombarded with messages from people who are concerned about the mayor's property tax proposal that would hike property taxes by 9.5%. Mayor Zoran Mamdani yesterday argued that there are only two ways to fill the city's $5.4 billion budget gap. Either state lawmakers increase taxes on millionaires and corporations, or he will raise property taxes in the city. But Speaker Menon says she disagrees that there are only these two options, pointing to areas that the city can cut costs or find savings. And she's not the only one. Mamdani facing fierce backlash even from some of his supporters over his strategy to create pressure on the state legislature by threatening to raise property taxes. Menon was asked if she supports raising taxes on millionaires and corporations, and without weighing in, pointed to how the governor has already made clear that this isn't an option. Menon says the council should focus on what's possible.
The governor has made clear that she is not raising taxes. So with that said, we think we need to really focus on saving. We cannot be raising property taxes on the back of small property owners, on the backs of renters, on the back of small businesses. That will worsen the affordability crisis. So that is clearly off the table for us.
Now, at the same time that Mamdani is considering a significant property tax hike, today he also moved to appoint 6 members to the Rent Guidelines Board, giving him essentially majority control to deliver a rent freeze for rent-stabilized apartments. The Rent Guidelines Board is technically an independent body in charge of determining rent adjustments for rent-stabilized apartments, but Mamdani on the campaign trail made clear that he would appoint members who agree with his rent freeze. However, today, possibly in light of his property tax hike proposal, Mamdani seemed to tamp down on his campaign message by emphasizing that the board is an independent body.
I continue to believe that this city's more than 2 million rent-stabilized tenants deserve a rent freeze. We cannot respond to a crisis by simply rotating who suffers from it. And of course, I also understand that the RGB is an independent board, and they will consider all of the evidence. We are working to lower costs for property owners across the city, as I have said.
You see, he knows it's an independent board, but he gets to appoint the people on the board. Now, I don't know if you guys have been paying attention or not to the battle over the Federal Reserve, the independent organization that is. But whenever President Trump seems to want to put somebody in there that, goes along with his plan for America, then he's interrupting the independence of the Federal Reserve. But when Kami Mamdani wants to put regulators who agree with his policy proposals on an independent council to freeze the rent in New York City, I'm doing air quotes because none of that's happening. When he went to, obviously he's going to do that. Because here's the secret for the national audience, and the local audience will tell you this. This isn't me just hating this guy, even though I do. For the people that don't live in New York, you guys probably think of, when you think of New York City, you think of Times Square, you think of Wall Street, you think of skyscrapers, the Freedom Tower, and the Chrysler Building, and the Empire State Building, these sprawling buildings out into the sky. That's not what most of New York City is. New York City, of course, encompasses the 5 boroughs, the Bronx, Queens, Staten Island, Brooklyn, and Manhattan. Most people, when they think New York City, they think about Manhattan. But most of Manhattan is not giant apartment buildings. Most of Manhattan are relatively small-sized, united buildings. Think of it more like Friends than these than these skyscrapers. But it gets even worse than that, because the majority of New York City, particularly in the outer boroughs, are single and 2-family homes. I mentioned my Uncle Pat the other day on the show. He had a 2-family house in Queens. He was an electrician. And that's how most of Queens is. Almost all of Staten Island is single-family homes, driveways, and lawns. It is not the concrete jungle that people like Jay-Z and Alicia Keys sing about. That's the part that everyone knows. That's Midtown, that's Penn Station, that's Madison Square Garden, that's a lot of lower Manhattan, or mid-lower Manhattan, I guess you could say. But you start getting way up into the number streets, start getting up into Harlem and Washington Heights, they're like 3-story buildings. They're not these giant apartment buildings that people think of. And the residents of the outer boroughs are sitting there going, what, bro?
The mayor, with the greatest respects, in every campaign speech, in every debate where you engage, we opened our ears to listen. Now today, accept the words echoing from us now. Do your job as mayor and leave our taxes out.
Saving only 2 options. You're saying if we don't tax the rich, then I gotta increase property taxes. We are not a pawn in Southeast Queens. We are not part of your negotiation tactics. Zoran Mamdani, you are out your goddamn mind.
I just want to say those two guys might be the most. Those two guys might be the most Queens people on planet Earth. You're out your damn mind. You are out your mind because if you raise property taxes 9.5%, it's not going to affect like Jared Kushner or Donald Trump even. It's going to affect regular people like those two guys and a lot of my family that live in regular houses. The irony, of course, is that many people, here we go, let's do the map of Long Island. Boom. So let's play a little game here, okay? Here we go. Let's pop this bad boy up on the screen. Because there's nothing on earth I enjoy doing more than reminding people from Queens and Brooklyn that they live on Long Island. Let's pull this up. You guys see Queens and Brooklyn right here? How it's connected to Nassau County? Wouldn't you know it, the housing prices in Nassau County have gone through the roof in the last 2 months. Like astronomically through the roof. Like the median home price of a house in Nassau County has gone up $100,000 since Zoran Mamdani has been elected. Why? Because everyone who has a house in Queens is now going, I'm getting out of here. Because it is quite literally, and I mean this isn't like you got to go through a tunnel and pay a toll. You got to go over the George Washington Bridge. No. Queens and Long Island, New York City and Long Island are on opposite sides of a crosswalk. Literally, opposite sides of a crosswalk. So if you want to avoid living in Kami Mamdani's world, you can just move across the street. And because of that, those housing prices in places like Elmont and New Hyde Park, everywhere along Hempstead Turnpike, over by the UBS Arena, those houses are going through the roof. My sister lives over there, and they are river dancing, seeing how much their house has gone up in the last couple of months. Because everybody's getting out. Because it turns out, Zoltan, it's not hard to move across the street. And if you're one of those corporations that you want to tax so badly, like Deutsche Bank or B of A or anything down on Wall Street, it turns out it's also not very challenging to move your building to the other side of the river. You could throw up there. I don't know if I could. I'd probably tear my arm. But like, you could throw a baseball from New York City to New Jersey. It's not that hard. But Zoran lives in this weird world where if you have billions of dollars, you're going to sit back and you're just going to go, man, you're right. I have been greedy all these years. I've been so greedy. Now I think I'm just going to hand over my money to a guy who wants to spend $50 million on diversity officers at the Department of Housing. No. They're going to leave. Collins Avenue in Miami is about to become the new Wall Street. As a matter of fact, it already is. And then I'm sure we'll hear the Democrats down in Florida talk about gentrification and how the people that live there can't afford to live there anymore. Yeah, because all the rich New Yorkers who can get the hell out of there are going to move down to Del Boca Vista like the Seinfelds and the Costanzas to get the hell out of New York. Escape from New York. Where's Kurt Russell when you need him? But Kami Mamdani is doing such a terrible job that he's even lost the New York City Council. A New York City Council that, let's be clear, I think there's 54... is it 53 or 57? We'll say 55. We'll put it in the middle. There's 55 seats, somewhere over there. There's 55 seats in the New York City Council. Do you know how many of them are represented by Republicans? 4. 4 of them. That's it. So he's lost the majority of his own party. Of course, the New York City Council speaker and governor, I fly to work on a broomstick, she didn't mention any of that in the campaign when we actually could have done something about it. No. They bent over, they kissed the knee, Kathy Hochul can't raise her eyebrows anymore because if she did, it'd be on her hairline. They didn't say any of it during the campaign. No. They just let it rock and they endorsed the commies so they could keep their job. And sure enough, it's coming back to bite them in the ass. And you know what? I guess they get what they get. I don't know. We shall see. But make sure you guys keep it locked in here for your for your holy crap, I'm stuck in a communist hellhole daily update. Before we move on to what national Democrats are doing, because if you think New York City Democrats have got their heads up their asses, just wait until you see what Democrats have in store for the State of the Union. Before we get to that, here's Mike Lindell.
I'm excited to announce that we're having our first ever mega sale on overstock clearance and brand new products. For example, save over 50% on this season's flannel sheets. Queen size only $59.98. Kings only $69.98. They sell out fast every year, so order now. Save 20% on our brand new My Crosses. They're designed in the likeness of the one I've worn every day for over 20 years. They come in men's and women's, and they're made right here in the USA. Get our 2025 six-piece My Towel sets for only $29.98. Our initial quantities are extremely low, so get them now before they go. And our best-selling standard My Pillows, just $14.98. So go to mypillow.com or call the number on your screen. Use this promo code to take advantage of our first ever mega sale. But wait, remember that $75 free shipping rule? Well, that ship is sailed because right now, every order ships absolutely free.
Guys, head on over to mypillow.com and use promo code LOUD. That's mypillow.com, promo code LOUD, for up to 80% off everything on the website. That's mypillow.com, promo code LOUD. So, next week, we've got the State of the Union. We've got the State of the Union, which ought to be awkward when the Supreme Court walks in there, sitting in the front row, staring at President Trump as they just removed one of his main policy agenda. That ought to be awkward. I'm sure he'll have nothing to say about that. Democrats have decided that they're going to be organic. And by organic, I mean announce their plans like a week ahead of time. So they're going to stage a walkout in the middle of the campaign, in the middle of the speech. Some Democrats have said they're just not going to show up altogether, but I'm sure other ones will show up with their little paddles, or all wearing white, or everyone with a stupid pin, or waving a Ukraine flag, or I don't know, yell Trump should walk into the State of the Union playing Vanilla Ice and just break every single one of them. Seems to be the only Democrat that makes any sense these days is the one who a year ago couldn't think.
Well, some of you guys aren't showing up to the State of the Union. They're going to boycott the State of the Union, the Democrats. You think that's a good idea?
Yeah, no, I mean, if you want to boycott it, that's really, you're up to it. But I just hope they don't do the kinds of things that some did last year. I mean, there's just no dignity if you have paddles, if you are yelling and saying those kind of things. I mean, you can agree or disagree on things, but if you're going to show up, just do it with dignity because, really need to respect the office. And now they're doing like a counter programming. And I mean, that's never going to go well. I mean, it's like, regardless who the president is, the counter never really lands, and it's really kind of just doesn't compare.
You should just knock some sense into these people. You're a big guy. Just boom, knock the paddles out of their hand.
Yeah, Jesse, that's going to go over well. Have Lurch walking up to, that old woman from Rhode Island with the hair and just give her a whack. I'm sure that'll go over well. But John Fetterman wasn't the only Democrat out there making some sense on this issue. Another Democrat making some sense on the issue was a guy who's definitely not running for president. A guy who said numerous times that he's never going to run for president, except for the fact every single day he keeps talking like he's going to run for president. Who the hell could that be? We'll get to that in 1 second. Before we do, guys, head on over to loudmajorityusa.com. That's loudmajorityusa.com. Sign up for the newsletter. Check out our shop. You guys can get these phenomenal spilling tea since 1773 hats, or which a lot of you have liked. I didn't know you guys would like this so much, but it's been flying off the shelves. You've got the F around and find out logo, which you guys can pick up. It's in it's a sheet metal piece, a sheet metal plaque, excuse me. It comes in 7x5, 11x11, and 16x16. You guys can pick those up over at loudmajorityusa.com. Sticks right to the wall. You know what? You know what you should do? Put that on your front door. That way you scare your mother-in-law from coming over. I think that would be great, guys. Go to loudmajorityusa.com. Pick that up today along with the F Around and Find Out t-shirts, all the hoodies, all the good stuff. Not to mention we've got a whole bunch of stuff on sale. We're trying to have a big end of winter sale to get rid of some stuff so we can bring in new things for the new year. You can get this We Are the Loud Majority t-shirt right here with all the colors where apparently land doesn't vote, but all the people who live on the land do. Democrats love to say because they're idiots. So one person who's definitely not running for president, even though he talks about it every single day that he's not running. I've never seen a person in my life say so many times that they're not running for president, even though they definitely are, is Stephen A. Smith.
The president of the United States is going to give his State of the Union address, and the Democrats got other plans. So some are talking about walking out in the middle of his speech. Others are talking about boycotting it altogether and essentially finding something else to do. I'm here to tell you that neither is acceptable. Neither should be acceptable. At some point in time, ladies and gentlemen, there's got to be an adult in the room. If you're going to act as juvenile, as petulant, as petty, as you accuse the president of the United States to be, how are you ever going to hold a high moral ground, at least high enough to judge him accordingly? If people on the right can turn and look at you and say, you're no better, you act no better, where's it going to get you? See, these are the kind of things that end up getting people like myself and others in the news because we're talking about getting things done. I've said repeatedly.
Hold on, Stephen A. How are you going to get things done as a host on ESPN?
And I'll state it again, and I'll make news by saying it again. I have no desire to be an elected official.
Yeah, and I have no desire for Sydney Sweeney.
I've never entertained politics in my life.
I've never even looked at Angelina Jolie.
I'm certainly not an aficionado on the issues. Got a long way to go to learn all the things that go on. But you know what I have? I have common sense. I have decency. I have respect for the office even when or if I didn't respect the individual. Because I would understand it as a representative, whether it be that as a representative or a senator in the United States of America. Guess what? I have a constituency to answer to. And I have people who need me, who I represent. And whether I like it or not, this individual is in office until 2028. And I got to find a way to do business with him in order to get something done. You see, when you go to the American people and you ask the American people, yo, stand up, step up and handle your business. Stop bitching and screaming all the time. When you got problems at the job, when you got bills to pay, when you got a family to take care of, find a way to work around it and handle your business. How come that can't apply to elected officials? Why do they get away with that? Why do they get to circumvent those rules and regulations? Why do they get to circumvent the need and the insistence of mere decorum? This is the kind of stuff that ticks me off.
Yeah, he's not running for president. Yeah, okay. And I can dunk. Sure, right. Stephen A.'s definitely not running for president. I don't know. Hey, look, we got a guy from Jamaica Estates, Queens, in the White House right now. So why wouldn't a guy from Hollis, Queens, think he could run for president either? Maybe a guy from Glendale, Queens. Just saying. We got speaking of people from New York. You guys want to check in on The View? They're having a rough week. They're having a rough week when they find out that they're all on the Epstein list, which is a real shame because, they're such lovely people. They really are. Before we get to that, guys, do me a favor. Head on over to lfatv.us. That's lfatv.us. That's your home base, your mothership, your landing pad for all things LFA-TV related. Check out the LFA-TV store. And while you guys are there, consider becoming a monthly donor over at LFA-TV. That's where you get all the good stuff, all the good LFA merch. Check that out today, guys. That's how we keep the lights on. That's how we keep Kevin fat and happy over there, Go to lfatv.us. Oh, by the way, Team USA, 2-0, baby. Let's go. Double gold, boys. Oh, I can't play the clip because NBC hits you with copyright infringement, but damn, that girl, well, I don't know what the hell her name was, with that dangle last night in overtime, damn, that is how you win a gold medal. I'm not even a damn hockey fan, and I'm impressed with that. That was unbelievable. So shout out. I don't know what your name is. I have no idea. But that dangle was sick. That poor number 43 from Canada will be on posters until the end of her life. I do feel bad for you. Not really, because you're one of the obnoxious people to the north that we have to put up with for no particular reason whatsoever. Speaking of obnoxious people, you guys remember when everyone on The View was talking about if you got nothing to hide, just release the list? Y'all remember that? Those were fun times. Those were really fun times. Got nothing to hide. Just released the list. Well, suddenly they changed the tune up a little bit when they find out that old Whoopi, the star of Theodore Rex, found herself on the list. Because, guys, I don't know if you do this. I've never done it, but maybe I'm just a better person than all of you. I've never emailed random financiers with checkered pasts to ask them if I can borrow their private jet. I've never done that before. I mean, look, maybe it's a Hollywood thing. Maybe it is. Maybe that's how they get from, like, the districts back to the Capitol in the Hunger Games. But it seems like Whoopi Goldberg is a little bit miffed. She's a little flummoxed at the fact that her name appears on the Epstein list. Now, as I've said numerous times, I don't think Whoopi Goldberg did anything wrong. However, I'm simply holding her to the standard, or the lack of standard, that she holds everyone else to. Because I gotta say, if I'm gonna have a giant orgy in a tropical paradise, I'm probably not gonna invite, Whoopi Goldberg. But who knows?
If they find enough evidence, and
by the way, ladies, thanks for dressing up on television. All 5 of you wearing sweaters, like zip-up hoodies. Thanks for putting in the effort.
really good evidence, because that list has a lot of crazy names on it. And it's almost like a way to muddy the waters so that you say, Whoopi's on the list, right? And so am I think. Why?
But
because wait, let me finish this.
By the way, Joy, you're not on the list. You're not that important, honey.
Please. We're on the list because we were at a party or a wedding or something that somebody might have been. That's what I found out anyway.
Yeah, no,
I was at Trump's wedding to Marla.
Right.
Maybe Epstein was there too. Who knows?
I don't know.
So that means that I'm not guilty, obviously, but these other ones, how are you going to decide who's really guilty and who's not?
Well,
It's very tricky.
I think it's very clear, because if you look, you know why my name is there. Because someone was looking for a plane, and that's what people do. They go to all the people who have private planes and say, do you have one?
And you didn't get on the plane.
Oh, is that what people do? Chat, real quick. I'm going to pop the live chat up there. I'm curious, chat. Have you ever, I don't know, maybe you have. Maybe I'm different. Have you ever just sent a cold email to somebody like you're trying to get them to buy solar and said, hey, could I borrow your plane? Have you ever done that? That's what people do. No, it isn't. No, it isn't, Whoopi. That's not what people, you got to get somewhere, you got to borrow a plane. No, most of us go down to Delta and wait in line at TSA like an animal at 6:15 in the morning so we don't have to wait on that absurdly long line. You know how I know that? Because I ran into Michael Cohen at the TSA line once. Had some fun with his goofy ass when I ran into him at TSA. Funny story, so I'll tell you because it's a Friday. So I'm on my way to Chicago to cover the DNC on the ground. You guys will probably remember I did a hit on Jeremy's show from like a closet in some shithole Airbnb in Chicago. It looked like I had gotten kidnapped by ISIS. Let me know if you remember that. But I'm standing on line at JFK International Airport in Queens, and it's like 6:15 in the morning. The line is wrapped around. The line's wrapped around, and I'm looking like three. What do you call them? Like corrals in front of me, and Michael Cohen is standing there. None other than Trump's former lawyer. and I'm dying. I'm sitting there, I'm a little groggy, I was probably a little hungover. And I'm like, wait a minute, is that Michael Cohen? And I swear on everything I have, I looked up and I just went, hey, Michael, real fall from grace, huh, buddy? Oh, was he pissed? Oh, think about that. Imagine you went from flying on private jets on Trump's big-ass plane that took off whenever you showed up. The plane, when's our plane? Our plane's whenever we get there. Going from that to having to take your shoes off and your belt and your laptop out of your bag and you can't bring water with you and you got to pay $17 for a sandwich on the other side of the line. Imagine that fall from grace. Imagine that fall from grace. Well, the one line I will take from Robert De Niro, Michael Cohen, is that, never rat on your friends and always keep your mouth shut. I guess you didn't pick up on that little nugget, old Mikey boy. I love that story, by the way. Just so you guys know, I was absolutely mortified that, I was going to cause a scene on the TSA line and then get pulled off and then miss my flight to Chicago, but I just thought I had to do it. I should have recorded it. The shit would have went, aggressively viral, but I'm like, do I want to record the TSA line? That's a real good way to end up on a list, and I'm on enough of those, and I don't really need any more help ending up on lists, because, that gets to be, that gets you an extra pat down when you go through TSA, It was my birthday, so I guess I should thank them. Guys, it's 4 o'clock and Team USA is on. I'm going to go finish watching that game. I hope everybody has a phenomenal weekend. Head on over to loudmajorityusa.com and use promo code RUMBLE to get 20% off everything on the website, guys. Hannah Faulkner coming up next here on LFA TV. Until tomorrow, everybody, stay loud.